Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this month's Leadership Forum webinar series here, hosted by Eldermark Software. Appreciate you joining us this afternoon or this morning, depending on your time zone, I guess. I'm your host, Mark Anderson, Chief Client Officer here at Eldermark. My contact information is here if you should want to share any information with me that you would like to see on our webinar series or have any other questions about Eldermark. You can always reach anyone here through me. So thank you for that. Just a reminder of a few things before we get into our topic today. These regularly scheduled webinar meetings are set up to mainly support you as a leader in senior living. Our intentions are as a group to help us learn about technology solutions that can help us achieve our goals as leaders, to share information and resources that is relevant to our work, and also maybe relevant to current events or current concerns. This is such a dynamic industry, and there are always things coming up that require our attention. And again, mainly just to support each other in our important work. Couple additional reminders for our customers participating today. Please convey any key staff changes to us at support@eldermark.com so that we can keep our roster of key positions and contact people at your organization current and relevant in our records. Thank you for that. And be sure to read any of the latest release notes that we send out to you. If you are not getting release notes and you would like to, again, please let us know through the support@eldermark.com email, and we would be happy to add you to that release notes listing. Just a few technology updates to bring to your attention. I brought these up at our last Leadership Forum webinar, but wanted to do that again today. So we have put together a new integration with a technology called ABX Tracker. This is infection control and antibiotic stewardship management software. It is really great. If you would like to learn more, let me know. We can set you up with a demo of that. We've also recently completed an integration with the Yardi financial system so that our billing module connects to the Yardi Financials platform. And a reminder about our integration with eMenu Choice. This is a point of sale and dining services management software, and I have here soon to include new menus. Those have actually been released. They have added a series of chef-developed, dietitian-developed menus called Fresh Menus. And I used to actually, back in the day, work with the team that put together those menus. And so I am very aware of the talent and the thoughtfulness that have gone into those menus. So really a great product. Again, if you want more information, let us know. And finally, our integration with the Engage social engagement software platform. This is a great social engagement app and system available now connected to our platform. And a great way to not only engage your residents, but their natural supports, to be able to create programming and measure the success of your social engagement within the analytics available in the platform. Really a great new tool, and we're excited to be now offering that to our customers. All right, just a few notes before we begin our formal presentation today. Just a reminder that all of you participating today will remain muted. However, please use the question feature on the control panel to submit your questions that we can address. At any time during the presentation, please submit a question. I'll be fielding those for our guests and directing those as they come up. And also, you'll get a link to the recording of this webinar about within 24 hours after we adjourn, so watch your email for that. And again, you are always welcome to contact any presenter in our webinar series directly via email, and we provide those to you during the presentation. All right, so today's topic, something we've never talked about here in the 2 years plus that we've been doing this webinar series, started during COVID to support our customers. Today, we're going to look at new strategies and technology for your management of senior living transportation services to your resident customers. Again, a new topic, really excited to bring this topic forward. So our objectives today, we're going to discuss transportation as a social determinant of health, introduce a technology system as a solution to help best manage transportation services for your community or for your organization. And then finally explore how this technology improves the safety and service elements of your well-managed transportation program for your residents and their natural supports. I found it very interesting to think about transportation as a social determinant of health. And I'll just address it here really briefly, and then our guests will get into it a little bit more. But wanted to kind of provide a general definition. Social determinants of health is a somewhat new thing, if you will, in senior living, where we're looking to do more to include these social determinants of health within resident evaluation and assessment tools, in looking more at the whole person rather than just what ADLs does our resident need from us as a senior living provider. And so when we think of social determinants of health, we're looking at the different conditions in the environments where people are born, where they live, where they learn, work, play, and age that can affect a wide range of their health, their functioning, and their quality of life outcomes and risks. There was a recent article, in, I think it was in Senior Housing News, about transportation as a social determinant of health. And Dr. Bill Thomas, the Chief Independent Officer at LifeSpark, one of Eldermark's customers, said this: transportation is a social vital sign. And it really got me thinking about the idea of access, especially to transportation as a social determinant of health, because we're more and more focusing on that person-centered approach, and transportation is part of that because of how it links an individual to the people and places that are important to their wellness. It also helps them stay actively engaged, not only with maybe their natural supports or their local community, but with society in general. And let's face it, this is a growing expectation of our customers, especially the fiercely independent baby boomers. And I can use that phrase because I count myself as among the baby boomer generation. And we are a fiercely independent generation, and probably among the most independent generations to be served to date by the senior living business line. And then wanted to just add a few things here about what AARP is advising its members when their members are inquiring about transportation services, especially for older adults who are a little more vulnerable. And AARP, the strong consumer advocacy organization for retired persons, they are encouraging their members to ask a number of questions about transit options wherever those members live. So they're asking them, or they're recommending questions like availability, what hours and days of service, how available is a particular transportation service, am I eligible? And if I'm eligible for maybe a payment or a payor, or is there certain other criteria where I might be eligible for certain services, like for veteran transportation services? What kind of scheduling is available? What is the service area, importantly, and what type of transportation is available for me? Is it just for medical appointments, or can it be for something fun? Is there reasonable accommodation and assistance? Is it curb to curb or just a pickup and drop off? Do I get assistance maybe getting in and out of the vehicle? Can they accommodate some type of durable medical equipment that I use? Importantly, cost and payment. How much does it cost me to get from point A to point B? If I have insurance, or if I have Medicaid or other provider payment available, does it count? Do I get vouchers? Are there discounts? What else might I be eligible for with regard to cost and payment? And then importantly too, what are the credentials of the drivers? Are they volunteers? Do they get special training? Do they have a special license? Is there a background check? How do I know that the person driving the vehicle I'm riding in is someone that is safe? Important questions to ask, and literally all of these apply very much to what our guests are going to bring to us today in their topic and in their presentation. And joining me today are Adam Fox, the CEO for CTS Software, and Elizabeth Magra, COO for CTS Software. Welcome, Adam and Elizabeth. Thank you so much for being a part of our webinar series today.
Thank you for having us.
I'm going to turn things over now to Adam, and he will get on with, there you go, with some additional information for everybody. And Adam, I can see your screen. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, first, thank you guys so much. We are truly grateful for this opportunity to speak with you. I want to thank you, Mark, for having us, but also want to thank everybody that is joining or may view later for the service you provide to your community and, of course, to your members living inside those facilities that you serve directly as well. Really, really grateful for this opportunity. We really wanted to talk to you guys today about the specific new and improving technologies around transportation. So there is a lot that has happened over the last basically 10 years inside of the technology aspect here, and we want to share with you some of those things. Make sure you're aware of what's available, that it's affordable and can be implemented quickly, and that there's a lot of options out there for you. We do have one of our mission here on the screen, that's improving quality of life by enabling safe, effective, and reliable mobility for all through innovative technology solutions. So, you know, including those that are in a wheelchair or have a walker or hearing impaired or maybe are blind or other factors. You know, sometimes they get excluded in the options for transportation. And obviously those members you're serving typically are facing a lot of those similar challenges. So making sure that that you're providing opportunities for them and that it's accessible and available is something that we want to talk through today. And here's a quick agenda. We are going to talk about the social determinants of health fairly briefly. I appreciate Mark kind of giving the definition and kicking that off. We're going to walk through some key challenges that we have seen as we worked serving folks in the senior living industry, and some solutions that transportation scheduling and dispatching software can provide to those challenges. We also want to cover some just added benefits that a scheduling dispatching software will almost certainly provide, in addition to solving the challenges we discussed. And then we'll give a quick overview of TripMaster, our company and history. And then we'll have opportunity for some Q&A. I know Mark's going to be fielding those along the way. So really encourage you to ask any questions that you guys have or anything that pops up along the way. That said, we will dig right in. So we did talk about the social determinants of health. A lot of different charts break it out into different groups, but these 6 tend to be the most common sectors that they kind of break things down into. So you've got healthcare and the opportunity to get to quality care. You've got your community and social context. So you know, just opportunities within the community to engage with folks. You've got access to healthy options for food, access to education, whether that is the basics of literacy or all the way through higher education. Neighborhood and physical environment is the housing, the safety, the parks, the playground, and of course, what we're going to be talking about today is transportation. And then finally, you've got the economic stability, which is the opportunity to get to services to help you become not only employed, but to manage those expenses and support for that. You folks are in an interesting situation where your facilities really bring the vast majority of these things to the members directly at the center. So you are already providing a leg up, if you will, for these social determinants of health. but there are certainly some things that you can't offer in your facilities. You can't offer everything, and you have to draw the line at certain areas. And that's why we believe that while transportation is considered part of that neighborhood and physical environment, it truly could be seen as a center point for it, because even if you don't live near great quality of care or a specialist for an optometrist or the best knee surgeon in the state, if you have a quality transportation program, then you can get transported to where that is. The same thing is true about each and every one of these. If you don't have access to the right food, to the right education, to the right community environments, the economic stability folks, the right financial planners, then as long as you have a good opportunity to transport your members to those locations, then they aren't missing out on it. And at that point, then you truly can come full spectrum of what we don't offer directly inside of our centers. We offer a program to get you to those, and it is managed by us and controlled by us. It's an experience that we're dictating. And a lot of those questions that Mark just went through a moment ago about these are the things you need to ask, they'd be able to ask you those questions, and they've come to rely on you for knowing that, for instance, the drivers would be background checked and they would be quality folks that are going to be looking after my well-being. So a lot of those questions get eliminated when they know that the transportation is being managed by the facility that they have come to love and trust, versus a public transit provider or a TNC like a Lyft or an Uber, where those questions need to be asked and you don't know the answers to them without going through a process. And clearly, you guys understand this fairly well, because if you look at the health outcomes down at the bottom, the more you offer of these things, the better life expectancy and health status and those things. And obviously, that's a primary goal that you folks are looking to provide to your members. So quick wrap up there on social determinants of health, but again, you guys do a fantastic job of offering the vast majority of these, and anything that you are unable to offer internally, then a good transportation program can get those members to those services. So we're going to dig into some of those challenges, and Mark kind of helped us with this line at the bottom, that it takes a lot more than just having a vehicle available to drive people around town. What I have seen in my many years, and I've been doing this for a long time, I've been in transportation software for around 22 years. What I've seen is that most of these programs start off with a let's buy a van and somebody can use it a few times a week to take folks where they need to go. And then you wake up one day and you realize, oh my gosh, we run a full transit program. We have 3 or 4 or 5 drivers. We've got a fleet of vehicles out there. We're doing maintenance. We're printing trip sheets. We're doing more than we ever anticipated we were doing when we just bought that van a few years ago. And I see this in senior living. I see it in PACE. I see it in adult day. I see it in healthcare across the board. It typically is let's just grab a vehicle and go out and serve, and then the next thing you know, you've got a lot of headaches because the system's grown, and you didn't take a step back to realize, hey, we might should look at some options to help us be more efficient and effective. So the first one we're going to dig into is safety and accountability, and Lib, I'm going to let you talk through this a little bit for us.
Sounds good. So I'm going to go ahead and go over our challenges and solutions. And as you can see up here, we've kind of grouped it into 3. We have the safety and accountability, disorganization, time and money. Those are both heavily impacted by disorganization, and then also limited accessibility. So as far as challenges, I think about vehicle health, and we just talked about how transportation is tantamount to ensuring people's health, and making sure you have a healthy vehicle is step 1 of that. So if you're actually running transportation, or if you're kind of the conduit to it, you really need to make sure, be confident that those vehicles are roadworthy. I remember one time I was in Los Angeles taking a car to the airport, and we died on the road. And this was a car service. This was their wheelhouse. And you would think they would be on top of maintenance. So I think it just kind of points out how it can get away from you. These are people that this should have been one of their priorities, and they still missed it. So it's something that even if it's not your bread and butter, if you're providing it or are connecting that service, it's something you need to be aware of. So then visibility. Do you know where your residents are when they're in transit? It's not like you guys are going to the post office and mailing paper clips and thinking, okay, hope that turns out well, and just walking away. You're handing off residents, and that's a big commitment to trust people to do that. So, I think about if there's an event that some of your residents are going to, and they get to the event and the coordinator calls and says, your people never arrived. Well, you want to have that visibility to be able to make sure that they're actually at the correct location and that everyone is safe. And then, are your drivers driving safely, and are drivers properly securing residents? These I kind of group under drivers' performance, because it doesn't matter how safe your vehicle is if the drivers aren't safe on the road and if they aren't taking care of the residents appropriately when they're in the vehicle. And there was a recent news story, I think it was like 2-3 months ago now, really unfortunate. A driver had not secured someone safely in a wheelchair, and there was an accident, and unfortunately the individual passed away. And that's something that could have been prevented with software. So now let's look at our solutions. So with the vehicle health, you want to find a software solution that's going to allow you to track maintenance when it's due. So for instance, every 30 days, you need to check filters, set limits on the mileage that a vehicle can be used, be able to see all of your open service requests. Just make sure that those vehicles are well maintained, because we do know that lower fuel costs are attributable to well-maintained vehicles, which right now, that's really important with the cost of gas and costly breakdowns. You'll avoid those with a well-maintained vehicle. One of the other parts is pre and post trip inspections. And this is something that we have drivers using in our app. And Adam, do you want to bring up the driver app now? And we can look specifically at those pre and post trip inspections.
Sure. So go ahead.
The reason Adam and I want to show you this is because one of the things we found is potential clients come to us and say, we can't use software. Our drivers are very, very tech challenged. They do not want to do this. They will leave if they have to use software. So having that simplicity is just so key. So we wanted to make sure, we can tell you about it, but I'm a very visual person. And I think being able to just see how simple it is, Adam has the vehicle inspection checklist up now, and they go through, and this is all the drivers do. And if you see the service critical button, well, that means then the vehicle can't go out on the road. So it's just really simple, but it truly helps keep everyone safe.
Elizabeth, can you use this on like a mobile, like an app on a phone?
Yep. Yes, this is for iOS, so iPhones and Android.
Yeah,
and
Mark, we have
a tablet.
ton of folks that use our tablets. We recommend like a Samsung Galaxy tablet because it's a larger screen. You could use an iPad, or a lot of folks use cell phones. If they've already issued those to drivers, then they're using an iPhone, they're using an Android phone. You just install the app from the Play or the App Store, and then you're able to create this list. We built this list for this database, but you add anything to this you want. And then you also identify which ones If they say critical, it tells them, okay, we're not using that vehicle. Brake fluid level, if it's critically low, we don't want to use that vehicle. Maybe you say if the body wrap that has your facility's name on it looks bad, maybe we got to use it today because we got to get folks where they got to go. So you can kind of choose. And the vast majority of scheduling and dispatching software solutions in this industry offer some form of a pre-trip and or post-trip inspection to help you maintain these vehicles. And in most cases, it's a requirement in different states by law to have done this before you transport members, especially of the vulnerable population.
Sure. And we should probably clarify that this vehicle inspection checklist is general. This isn't a CDL critical requirement, right?
Correct. Yeah, and you know, you may have different requirements for different vehicles. There, if you've got a wheelchair vehicle, then you may need the wheelchair stuff. If you don't, then you may not. So that's why you know, most of these allow you to customize it to show exactly what you want. You can also have these where you can enter a number or any text in. So a lot of times people need to service the wheelchair lift every X times it is lifted, and this is where you track this so that you can stay on top of those types of things.
Okay.
Yep. And then this is the actual driver app. And the reason we wanted to show this to you guys is that the number one reason that I get pushback from agencies on why they don't want to implement software is not because of the office staff. It is because they believe that their drivers are just incapable of using technology. And so I wanted to show the driver app, but while I do that, I also wanted to tell you that the majority of the 6,000 plus drivers we have on the road every single day, the majority of them are not young people. We have a huge population of retirees that learned technology on this driver app you're viewing today. The first time they touched a touchscreen device was the tablet that they were using to transport passengers. And so what we actually found, funnily, is that the older drivers tend to pay attention when you train them on how to use this, and they do really well. And sometimes the 20-year-olds assume that they knew how to use the app before they downloaded it and didn't pay attention to the training, and they're the ones that sometimes you have to go back to. But this is just showing me my pickups are in green, my drop-offs are in blue. This one is running behind, so it's in red, letting me know, hey, you're a little late for this pickup. These are not red because we're not late. You got little notes up here. So this one is, this person has oxygen, and you can click here and see the different notes in detail. Here, this person's going to dialysis, and it says, hey, don't pull under the awning, you'll hit the roof. So you're able to give notes. You're able to give navigation to the driver to give them turn-by-turn vocalized directions. They can visibly see this client's in a wheelchair where this one's ambulatory. And it's as simple as saying you're on the way, and then that you have arrived. In this case, they're both getting picked up at a senior living facility, so it arrived them both at the same time. And then I can say, yes, I got Jose on board. You don't need signatures, but we offer it if you needed it. And so then you're just confirming who you're picking up. If there's a no-show or somebody decided not to go, then you can say no-show and say, hey, they canceled and decided they weren't going to go to Walmart today. And that'll remove the drop-off. So it's just showing you what you've got to do for the day. Of course, your return legs where you bring them back home are on here. Everything's just really, really simple. And you can send and receive messages to the driver as well. And you always have a map showing you where every vehicle is and if they're on or behind schedule. So just really simple stuff here. I wanted to make sure you guys were able to see this firsthand and see that it sounds like it's really tough thing to learn, but there's about 5 buttons that they'll touch on a regular basis. It's color coded and it's really, really straightforward. So don't let the technology scare you off from considering implementing a system like this if you haven't already.
My mom is actually extremely technology adverse. She's in her 70s, and I thought, well, let's see what happens here. So I actually had her download the driver app, and I showed her how to do it. And like Adam said, very meticulous at that age. So she took a lot of notes, but she had absolutely no trouble. It's so user friendly. So next thing we want to move on to then is visibility. So being able to see where the vehicles are located making sure that you're able to communicate with those drivers. Adam had touched on both of those, where the last screen he had showed you was the map and you could see where the vehicles are, and he mentioned the messaging, so you can stay in constant contact with your drivers. And we actually, as far as communicating with the drivers, we take it one step forward, and it leads us into driver performance. Camera solutions. Cameras are now becoming really important in this industry. It's going to help you monitor your driver behavior. Live streaming cameras, you can see what's going on inside the vehicle, outside the vehicle. You can make sure that drivers aren't texting while they're driving, that they're not veering into different lanes, and that they've actually secured the wheelchair patients correctly. And it's a little scary when you see some of the footage and see the driver behaviors of some of the transportation providers, but it's great because there's cameras, you can catch it and you can address those. The app will track your driver speed, and I had forgotten about that when I was testing out our driver app once, and I was logged in and went wherever he's going, came back, and I got a call from one of our team members saying, hey, the speed limit was 65 on the interstate. Why were you going 76? Oh, what? But all of that information is there. So then the drivers can be reached out to and say, hey, we think there's an issue here. You probably need to make some changes with your driving.
You also have liability. Most insurance carriers are starting to look at cameras as a way to reduce premiums because they know that you can refute some of the fraud claims that folks are having. You can use it as a training exercise, as Lib saw. You can watch that driver and see they didn't strap down the wheelchair properly and reach out to them before they even leave. And then you also get driver scorecards, so you can use that and share that with the drivers as well. And one of the things I want to make sure you guys are aware of is that the cost of camera solutions has come way down. That is a certain technology that has gotten substantially cheaper over the years. A decade ago, to put camera systems in vehicles, you were looking at $4,000 or $5,000 a vehicle. Now you can put, fairly simple self-install cameras in your smaller vehicles and 2 or 3 camera systems in your larger vehicles. And in many cases, we offer, and others do as well, there's $0 up front. It's just a monthly fee. The installation's included, the support, the data, it's all wrapped into one package that can be bought for under $100 a vehicle. So don't assume that this is a cost prohibitive option for you. Look into it. It may very well be that your insurance company will give you a discount that is equal to or similar to what the cost of the camera solution may be to add. So a really good thing to consider if you haven't looked at those yet.
Question about cameras, and that is when you have like cameras in vehicles like this, does the senior living provider who offers transportation where there are cameras involved, are there special, like, I'm thinking, putting my provider hat back on here, like, do I need permission from my residents to have those cameras on in the vehicle?
Most of the time that you just need a sign on the entrance of the vehicle letting them know that there is a camera installed for safety purposes, and that if they don't want to board the vehicle, then it's kind of putting the onus back on them. In these cases, I would explain to your members ahead of time, what you're doing, why you're doing it, that it's for their safety. Be proactive with it. But like a public transit provider just has to put a sign on board the vehicle. They don't have to do a mass outreach to the community letting them know they've done it. So I think legally you just need to have a sign stating it, but I would be a little more proactive as a center manager.
Thank you.
Yep, great question.
And I don't think we've ever heard anything about pushback on that. I think it's just cameras are becoming so prevalent now, just everywhere, that I think it's almost kind of the norm to people and they almost expect it. So, all right, let's move on to limited accessibility. So for this, challenge just having limited ability for the residents and family members or their loved ones, them not being able to book a ride to, let's say, a doctor appointment, to their accountant, to visit their favorite hairstylist. Mark had mentioned that with baby boomers, they're all very, very independent. And being in the senior living situation, yes, there is so much offered, but it's still not the same as being at home and having their own vehicle and just having that freedom to go wherever they want, whenever they want. Also, your team is spending a lot of unnecessary time on calls, trying to work out transportation. And frequently your staff is playing the middleman, which just isn't a good use of their time. They have a lot of other things that are more related to the actual care of the residents, that's what they should be focusing on. And then you have the stress that's caused by feeling disconnected. So, and it's not just the residents feeling disconnected, but also their family members and loved ones feeling disconnected. So their life has changed significantly, no longer living completely independently. Their health is top of mind. And so, I think about if I were in their shoes and I would want to be able to not only control my health, but know that my family can be involved in that. And part of that is, as simple as being able to schedule rides to your doctor's office. And in our family, we've dealt with this where we've had family members in senior living and they're out of state. And we just kind of feel, we can't go there every other day to visit or once a week. And we just feel very out of touch and out of control when it comes to their health, their social activities. So it's really it's nice for the loved ones and the residents. And our solution for this is we have a really, really intuitive rider app. And I don't think we'll show you that one now, but just because we showed you the driver app, and it's very similar to the driver app in that simplistic nature. It's, there's not an easy button that you push, but it is darn close to that. And the residents, the family members on the residents' behalf are able to use the rider app. And it's, again, you can use it on Android and iOS to actually book rides for family members. So it really helps them feel like they're in control of their social needs and that the family members can also participate.
And the member themselves could use it as well. If you've got members that are tech savvy and they wanted to just pull the app up and make the request directly to you guys, they could make the request. Or again, as Lib said, the family member could make the request. Most of these, again, most software in this industry has these opportunities here. And for ours, it's a wizard-driven approach, meaning it's where do you need to go, when do you need to go there, what very step-by-step and easy for them to enter in. And then once it's entered, it goes to your scheduling staff, and they can accept it and say, yes, we can accommodate that, or no, we can't for whatever reason. So if they wanted to go shopping at midnight, maybe that's not an option, but you're able to accept or deny it, and then the acceptance or denial goes back to them, letting them know, yep, we've got you booked. And the same thing is true for a family member booking. It would be an email and inside the app letting them know this has been accepted and we've got it, and we'll make that happen for you.
Okay.
So the last thing is just disorganization in general. So, anytime you are trying to do things too manually, it becomes disorganized. I love the images or memes where you've got the sticky notes all over everything. And I have seen that a lot. We talked earlier about vehicle maintenance. The vast majority of folks, before they go to a system, have a big whiteboard on the wall. They've got each vehicle. They've got the last time somebody looked at it for an odometer, and they've got the next time they think it needs to be brought in. And managing residents' schedules can become that way as well. In most cases, we have found that when we implement a software solution to someone that has not been using an effective and efficient system, they actually don't need as many vehicles as they think. They don't need as many vehicles, and they don't need as many drivers. With the driver shortage that many folks are facing, and the fact that vehicles, new vehicles are almost impossible to get, old ones have gone up in value from the day they were bought, which is kind of mind-boggling. You really need to manage those resources as well as you possibly can. Most systems, including ours, allow you to set up standing orders or subscriptions reservations. This would be, I need to go to dialysis 3 days a week, or I need to go to the hair salon once a month, or I need to go shopping at Walmart twice a week. And you can plug those in and they're automatically there, so you don't have to generate those reservations at all. They're just standing there and you can cancel them as needed. And then you can schedule the one-off. Maybe they have a specialist appointment at the optometrist. You want to put that in for this date. And that way you're aware of your schedules. You can put those reservations in as far in advance as you need, and you're ready for it. You can also send reminders to your members and say, hey, don't forget, we've got you scheduled to go to the optometrist next Tuesday. And that may trigger them to say, oh, I forgot to let you know I canceled that appointment. And I won't be going. Or maybe you're taking them to meet their family for breakfast, and they're like, oh, we moved that to next week. So there is a reminder system that you can utilize that will send a call or a text reminder about the appointments the night before, as well as on when it's the day of and it's time to come downstairs and get ready for the van. So a lot of different tools built in that will help you eliminate some of that disorganization, which does cost you time and money. And then just the fact that everything is cloud-based now really makes things easy. We've got customers that have been with us for 15 years, and we've got every piece of data that they've put in the system for 15 years. We don't archive it. If they need to go back and look at something for an audit or something, we've got it. So let it be stored in one simple place. You don't have to deal with installing anything on your computers, and you can access it from anywhere. In the case of an emergency, you might need to grab a laptop and get on the road and be able to look at these things, and you've got it. So really just sort of that one pane of glass where everything you need for your transportation management can be housed in one spot. A couple more benefits that we wanted to just mention that aren't directly related to one of those challenges is that advanced transportation management systems bring, and the acronym there is ATMS. We're in acronym crazy country at this point, but if you see ATMS that in transportation, it means Advanced Transportation Management System. And you're typically going to see improved resident and family member satisfaction through the convenience factors that we talked about and the connectedness that Liv mentioned earlier. You're going to see reduced driver miles and hours. I can all but guarantee you that a little more efficient scheduling and saying, hey, look, we don't need 2 vans. We could send these folks on 1 van and they can drop them both off and pick them both up. You're going to see some reduction there. Better data management and reporting. Our system has about 40 stock reports and a custom reporting engine where you can build your own reports that mean something to you. So having that data at your fingertips is really critical. And then, happier drivers and office staff, the less interactions you can reduce that are overkill, the better. We don't want folks not to talk, but we don't want to have the monotony of having to remind folks of things that are obvious. And then, for drivers, they do really end up liking the driver app and seeing that they can log in the night before and see when they need to show up. They know exactly what they need to do. They don't have to worry about if they don't remember how to get somewhere. They click a button, takes them there. They can communicate effectively and know exactly what is expected of them. And then, like I said, office staff, just reducing some of the labor that typically goes into these transportation programs that have grown and grown. Is helpful. A lot of times I see there's not a dedicated transportation manager. There is somebody who is working another job that is also tasked with managing transportation. So they can start to get overwhelmed pretty quickly, and using a software solution will typically prevent you from needing to hire more, which a full-time employee is going to cost you a whole lot more than any ATMS system on the market. So just a couple of things we wanted to throw out and mention there. We did want to just give you a little bit of background on us. Obviously, we've been talking a while here, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of kind of how we got here and why we believe we've got some knowledge about the industry to share with you. So we have been around longer than almost any other scheduling and dispatching software in the country, possibly the world. We started as a management company that would help public transit agencies that were starting to be required to manage transportation due to ADA laws. So we were managing, such and such county transit back in the early 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And the founder of the company was super progressive and decided that in 1986 he needed software to run that business. And if you can imagine what size the computers were and how little niche software there was, that was a pretty early decision. And then about 7 years later, he decided that managing the drivers and vehicles was not something he wanted to do, and he wanted to focus on the software. So CTS Software was formed in 1993. So we're coming up on 30 years of exclusive focus on the software. We're over 37, I guess, since we actually wrote the first system. We've got over 600 customers, and we have a strong focus right now on the elderly and the healthcare population. For the industries we focus on, obviously senior living, like you guys, PACE and adult day are a biggie for us, healthcare in general. And then we have a ton of public transit, non-emergency medical transportation, and even VA transportation customers across the country. We mentioned it a little bit earlier, everything's web-based. We have been web and cloud hosted for 12 years, so we're not ones that just moved to this technology. We have been in the Microsoft Azure cloud for many, many years. We do zero outsourcing, no offshore devs, no offshore call centers. It's 100% US-based workforce. Our tech support is all located right here as well. We do a lot of work with security. We've got a lot of PHI in our database, which is your personal health information. So we are HIPAA certified. We use a third party that does all kinds of testing to make sure that everything of yours that we're storing in the cloud is being protected. And we also follow an agile development module, which all that means to you is that instead of a big release every 2 years, we're going to do small releases every couple of weeks. So from what Mark was speaking of earlier, it sounded like they're doing the same thing, where you're constantly getting new features added as part of the maintenance and support package. And then I think because we ran transportation, tech support is just a huge focus of ours. It's 24/7, 365. Our averages that I track every week, these are the latest averages, but it's about 20 minutes for the first response on average, and 33 minutes to have your problem solved. Most of our competitors in the industry are hours or days or weeks that they measure in, but because again we were in your shoes, ran in transit, and relied on the system, we really have a big focus on that. And of course, we have remote and on-site training options available, so it really kind of meets the needs wherever you guys are at. And at this point, Mark, do we have any more Q&A, or if there's anything coming in, or if you've got any questions, we'd love to answer.
We do. Thank you. Thanks, Adam, and thank you, Elizabeth. So, assuming there's a scheduling calendar feature, I assume, right? So, a senior living resident or a natural support can go online or into the app, see what times are available, and schedule a trip to the library. Is that?
Yes, so that would be the app. They would make the request. We don't even really necessarily have to show them what times are available. We like the request, obviously within reason. If you don't want if the transportation ends at 5, then you can shut it off. But within the hours that transportation is generally available, we like them to submit the request, and then the transportation manager or whomever at the facility can then determine, how do we solve this? Can we serve them all? And we've got an optimization engine that would say, yeah, we can actually serve all 3 of these clients, even though they all want to go different places at 1 o'clock. We can make it happen. We'll have to drop off one a shade earlier and the second one earlier and the last one on time, but we can make it work.
Great, thank you. And then just a couple comments, and then I have another question. So first of all, an agreement with this submitted comment, and that is, I see this as a really great risk management tool, or something that I can add to my overall risk management program. You know, especially when we think about the vulnerability of our resident customers, and you know, they get into a vehicle with a driver, you know, the assumed liability, the exposure to their vulnerability. I mean, the potential there is huge. And so I appreciate the features of this kind of technology where, as a provider, I mean, it really covers my bases for my responsibilities in keeping my residents safe and putting in place a really accountable system. So
You got it.
just comments about that from a risk manager, because as a former risk manager, I always see things through those lenses still, and I appreciate that. Okay, so kind of a long question, but a good one. And this is, a question came in, how does, like this software through TripMaster, how does that integrate or partner with transportation providers that senior living providers might contract with or partner with? Or is TripMaster, you know, for an assisted living provider who doesn't maybe contract with an outside service? Is there any way that to use TripMaster, say, in partnership with a third-party transportation system?
You certainly could. You know, you could certainly use TripMaster as your scheduling engine, and not routing, but just scheduling and taking the reservations and then sending those over. There is simple ways to export all of the reservations for, say, tomorrow, and send that over to a provider that you're outsourcing to. If that provider happens to be using TripMaster for their system, then they would have a click of a button, and then that data would be imported into their side. And we're working to be able to send back real-time notifications between two TripMaster systems. If they weren't using TripMaster, at least you've generated a way for you to send it over to them. And then when they come back and tell you what they did, you could validate it inside of our system just to say who rode and who didn't, as well as your ability to track costs, because you probably have a negotiated rate for that outside transportation provider. This would be your double check that the rate they're billing you is accurate, and that the trips they said they provided lines up with what you had scheduled on your side. And then, of course, that gives you the ability to do the reporting. Certainly, there are more advantages if you are managing your own fleet inside of TripMaster than outsourcing it, but that doesn't mean that there's not value. And because we have software as a service pricing where there's no upfront fees and it's just a monthly option, you know, there's certainly a price point where you could say this is worth it just for me to have a simple place to track all of the reservations and then send that over in a batch to the provider that I'm working with. We also have a partner called Ride Health. They are a broker, but they're also working a lot in the PACE program and senior living program area that would manage for you if you did not want to do any of the scheduling, dispatching, billing, and reporting aspect. They could come in and help you find the drivers and the vehicles, and they would run TripMaster for a fee for your program. So there's a lot of options out there. You could do it all yourself. You could kind of have that middle ground, or you could send it over to a transportation provider to let them handle.
Okay, great, thank you. And then a question came in about so camera systems, and assuming that there's some recording going on, where there is recording going on, how long are those recordings kept, and are they stored in the cloud like with the system? Or maybe just kind of explain a little bit more about that.
Yep. So there's a couple of different options. Obviously, the bigger drive that is, you know, SD drive that's on the camera system in the vehicle can store things longer. The way our system works is that you do have, I believe it's 60 days of accessibility through the cloud to pull anything down that you want. And then it also sends you notifications for any events that you ask to be notified for. So God forbid a vehicle's in an accident, you're going to get a notification, you're going to get a link, and it's going to have 30 seconds before and 30 seconds after the incident already sent to you and downloaded and ready. Same thing for aggressive driving, maybe a harsh braking incident, maybe they went over the railroad tracks too fast. All of that is going to be event-based. It's going to send you a text message or an email and say, hey, here's something you probably want to look at, and it's got a link directly to the video. So there are multiple options there, but this kind of gives you the best of all of those things. If everything was being downloaded instantly, then the data storage fees would just get outrageous because it's all done through cellular. But this kind of does the event-based, and you can go grab any segment of time you want and download it to save forever. Otherwise, you would have to pull the card off of the camera, which most people don't want to do with a live streaming device. There's not usually a case for that. So it's sort of a hybrid option where it is stored in the cloud for 60 days, but you can download it from there to keep it for as long as you want. So certainly in the case of an accident or any liability issue, you'd download that to your hard drive and have that saved for as long as you need it.
Great, thank you.
And all of that really goes to that risk management you were talking about, Mark. We actually have an entire section of the software dedicated to driver certifications, because these drivers have to have first aid and CPR. They have to have training on using the lift. They have to have drug and alcohol testing. And if you forget one of those and then they're in an accident, then your risk management fears are really coming to truth there, because you can really be held liable if you let a driver go out on the road that did not have those certain credentials in place. And
yes,
it's hard to keep up with that stuff. So,
indeed. Last call for questions of our presenters today. All right. Well, thank you, Adam, and thank you, Elizabeth, so much for taking us through the challenges of managing transportation for a senior living provider and offering the solutions as we saw as a great example through the TripMaster software. You know, I'll just share with everybody who's participating today. You know, when I was first introduced to this technology with Adam, it was like, gosh, where were you guys when I was a provider? Because this is just really a really helpful solution that really covers all the bases for a senior living provider, no matter your size. You know, if you're a standalone or you're part of a larger organization, really a great solution. So thank you both so much. For any of our participants in the webinar today, here are the contact information for Adam and Elizabeth. Feel free to contact them directly, or you can certainly connect with me via phone or email, and I can connect you to these guys after today as well. Again, thank you, Adam. Thank you, Elizabeth. Really appreciate the great content today.
thank you, Mark.
Thanks very much.
All right. And so a reminder that next month's Leadership Forum webinar is scheduled for July 6th at 12 p.m. Central Daylight Time. I think we'll keep it that day for now, even though it's maybe part of a holiday week, people taking time off. I know here in Minnesota, you know, we kind of pack 12 months of living into the 3 months of summer. So hopefully many of you can join us on July 6th. The topic is yet to be determined, but I can guarantee it will be something helpful and something interesting related to leadership within senior living. All right, thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. Again, my contact information is here. Thanks for joining us today, and I hope that you will continue to join this webinar series. Your feedback is welcome on the content, and we will see you July 6th. Thank you, everyone.